They're an inspiration and they're legendary. They win awards and cause controversy. And it's all achieved using the power of words.
It was mere chance, really, that I suddenly sat down and wrote what was then a short story about this woman, Precious Ramotswe, who sets up a little detective agency here in Gaborone. And that was the beginning of it. And then I suddenly discovered that I had turned into a serial novelist, and I was committed to writing 8 books in that particular series.
Alexander McCall Smith is a world-renowned novelist. Being born in Zimbabwe, Africa, he studied there and in Scotland, graduating as a professor in law. He worked in Scotland as well as setting up the law faculty at the University of Botswana, where he also worked for several years. In 2005, he retired from his post as Professor of Medical Law at the University of Edinburgh in order to concentrate on his writing career. Smith's prolific ranges of works are also incredibly diverse. He's written legal textbooks, African folk tales for children and novels for adults. However, he's most well known for his series which began in 1998, the #1 Ladies Detective Agency.
It was an experience which I had those many years ago when I was visiting friends in Machudi. I saw this wonderful lady chasing a chicken around her yard. She was going to give a chicken to my hosts, and we saw this chicken whose minutes and hours were numbered, being pursued by this spirited lady wearing a red dress and with a great smile, and she eventually caught the chicken, wrung its neck and handed it to us. And I found myself rather interested in her background. Who was this woman? What had her life been? And wouldn't it be interesting, I thought, to write about a Botswana lady?
It was this lady who inspired Smith to write the series about Precious Ramotswe, an amateur sleuth turned professional detective in Botswana, Africa, who becomes the first female private detective in the country. The character is strong, vibrant, and down to earth. The series captures African life in a positive way without being sentimental or patronising, partly due to the environment Smith grew up and spent much of early adulthood in.
I think it's a great pity if people turn their back on Africa, and I suppose many people in North America and in Western Europe have done just that because they've seen all the problems of Africa, and of course there are many problems of sub-Saharan Africa which are very distressing. But at the same time, you can't walk away from it, and also one has to understand that that's just one side of the reality. The other side of the reality is that this part of the world is full of remarkable, wonderful people with great human qualities, and I think that's what I'm trying to get across in these books.
His books have so much power and encouragement that women across the world are setting up their own detective agencies. His writing is not only a form of entertainment, it's educational. It's teaching people about the remarkable qualities of Botswana and to take a more positive view of Africa.
I don't really enjoy reading much. It's just I was very interested in this particular series of books because I just found it very exciting that it was set here in Botswana.
Over 5 million copies of his series have been sold and translated into 31 languages. The #1 Ladies Detective Agency made the New York Times bestseller list and was voted one of the International Books of the Year and the Millennium. Its popularity has now led it to being adapted into a television series.
But you know what? I got a much better idea.
Come. The #1 Ladies Apostrophe Detective Agency.
Okay, that's it.
His writing style is clear and uncomplicated, yet insightful and perceptive. His passion encourages power and determination in his readers.
I'm very glad I won the Nobel Prize. I'm already thinking of all the people who are going to send me begging letters. I can see them lining up now. And what am I going to do? I want to start another book. and now I'm going to be too busy giving interviews to all you lot.
Doris Lessing is regarded as one of the most important post-war writers. Having grown up in Africa, her stories concentrated on a wide range of issues, from the politics of race that she dealt with in her earlier novels set in Africa, to the politics of gender which led to acceptance by feminist groups. She also uses the role of families and individuals in civilization throughout her writing. Her first novel, published in 1950, The Grass is Singing, looked at the smugness and shallowness of white colonial society in southern Africa and introduced Lessing as a novelist. It was the release of her next novel, The Golden Notebook, that gave Lessing her place in writing history.
When I wrote the Golden Notebook, and I wrote these things that women were saying, apparently it was absolutely astounding to everyone. My God, what an extraordinary revelation. But I was writing down what women were saying. What surprises me is that everyone reading that book would have heard women saying these things, but they weren't listening to what they were saying.
It was this book that firmly identified Lessing with feminist groups, even though she doesn't want to be recognised as a feminist. Her novels have touched on subjects that generate many different and conflicting opinions. But for this, she's been recognised and awarded.
The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2007 is awarded to the English writer Doris Lessing, that epicist of the female experience, who with skepticism, fire and visionary power has subjected a divided civilization to scrutiny.
Lessing is the 11th woman to have won the Nobel Prize for Literature, and also the oldest, winning it at age 87. Her surprised reaction when hearing about the award will always be remembered, along with her novels.
Are you photographing?
We're photographing you. Have you heard the news?
No.
You've won the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Oh, Christ.
How do you feel?
What? It's been going on now for 30 years. One can get more excited.
Lessing has won many awards throughout her writing career, but the Nobel is one that has taken many years to achieve, finally accomplishing this in 2007 and being recognised for her life's work. It did receive a mixed reaction from the author though.
They're going to say over there, oh God, I've got to give it to that woman at some time, I suppose. I mean, am I supposed to get elated or excited or what? I have won all the prizes in Europe, every one. So, you know, I've won them all. So, okay, the Nobel. This is, as I say, it's all flutter, it's all very good. I'm going to have to think of nice things to say any minute.
Lessing's beliefs in her early days as a writer and her views on political matters caused her to be banned from both South Africa and South Rhodesia. But it's also these strong beliefs that have earned her the right to return to these places she grew up in. An amazing writer with lots of different genres, including science fiction, Lessing believes she's achieved all that she can.
But I would like to say that there isn't anywhere to go from here, is there? Unless, like some exemplars, recent ones, I could get a pat on the head from the Pope.
Doris Lessing is an extraordinary woman and powerful writer.
The Da Vinci Code, a novel, but not always treated as such. Instead of recognizing it as fiction, many readers take it as fact, the author's claim of accuracy in descriptions of artwork and documents.
Dan Brown has become one of the most controversial and influential authors of our time. He is the author of one of the best-selling novels to date and caused great hype with his #1 New York Times bestseller, The Da Vinci Code. After quitting his teaching career in 1996 to pursue full-time writing, Brown only had minor success with his first few novels. Once the Da Vinci Code hit the bookshelves, Brown had made it. In early 2004, all 4 of his novels held spots on the New York Times bestseller list during the same week. Being credited as one of the most popular books of all time, and with over 60 million copies sold worldwide by 2006, The Da Vinci Code didn't come without its ups and downs. As a mystery detective novel, The Da Vinci Code follows a professor of religious symbology as he tries to solve the murder of a curator at the Louvre Museum in Paris. The body is found positioned like Leonardo da Vinci's drawing, The Vitruvian Man. Hidden messages in Leonardo's Mona Lisa and The Last Supper seem to hold the solution. The story also involves the Roman Catholic organisation Opus Dei and the possible location of the Holy Grail. Brown was involved in a number of battles over his book. Authors Michael Bagent and Richard Lee had their efforts rejected after they claimed that Brown stole significant elements from their book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail. Both books have the theory that Jesus and Mary Magdalene married and had a child, whose bloodline continues to this day. The book, which was being adapted into a movie, generated criticism by the Catholic faith. They believed that the story was dishonest and deceptive, and that Brown's portrayal of the Opus Dei was barbaric. The Catholic Church warned followers to regard the book and movie with caution.
The bishops of the Catholic Church have a responsibility to remind the faithful that things that are said in the Da Vinci Code novel, and which will, I assume, appear in the film, are frequently false and misleading with regard to the Catholic faith. So I think the bishops are exercising their pastoral responsibility regarding the faithful.
In 2006, the novel became a feature film directed by Ron Howard. With Tom Hanks as the lead character and Brown as executive producer, it was one of the most anticipated films of the year and was launched at the Cannes Film Festival. Even though it received negative reviews, it was still the second highest grossing film of that year, earning $750 million worldwide.
I'm sure that there are those who are going to say that but the church has given more attention to the movie by criticizing it, have actually done a favor to Dan Brown and to Sony and Ron Howard. But I think you can look at it the other way around as well, that Dan Brown, in the way he treats the Catholic Church by pointing an accusing finger at the Catholic Church in the novel, may actually be doing a favor for the Catholic Church.
Brown's novels have since been translated and published into more than 40 languages. Even though there has been a lot of arguments and speculation over the truth in his book, there's no argument that Brown is one of the most successful authors whose powerful use of words have affected many. Ian McEwan is a Booker Prize-winning English novelist. Winning this award for his novel Amsterdam, about 3 men meeting at the funeral of their former lover, his work has been honoured since the 70s. One of his more recent novels, Saturday, is considered one of the most telling commentaries of the time.
There are a couple of things really. I just moved to London, so I was really keen to write a London novel. I just finished a historical novel, so I really wanted to do a novel in the present. And then the present became, against all our wishes, horribly fascinating. So those events became very much part of the characters' anxieties and the background too of the whole novel.
Saturday takes place on 15th of February 2003 as 1 million Britons rally against the looming Iraq War. It's one of the first major literary works to use the September 11 attacks and the following realignment of world politics as a backdrop. Following the day of neurosurgeon Henry Perrone, whose day is disrupted by an encounter with violence, Saturday won the James Tate Black Memorial Prize and is one of the favourites among McEwan's readers.
Are you surprised to find that Cherie Blair rates Saturday as one of her favourite books?
Well, I met her once in Downing Street with Tom Stoppard. She was promoting Shakespeare in school, so I'd like to feel that it was a highly literate choice. But Laura Bush liked Atonement. It doesn't mean to say I'm going to throw it out the window.
McEwan's highly visual books have been considered as good material for films. His novel Atonement, which was shortlisted for another Booker Prize, was adapted for the big screen in 2007. The film is set in 1935 and tells about a girl whose fertile imagination leads to her making a false accusation that has tragic consequences. One of the film's stars, Vanessa Redgrave, is very fond of McEwan's writing.
Ian McEwan is one of our very best writers. And Joe Wright's certainly one of our very best directors. But I can't stand back from it and say that because I still feel very involved with the film. It's gone that deep into me. It's not all a past experience now. I can't step away from it, and to me it's almost like a life that I've lived.
Atonement is widely regarded as McEwan's best work and was named as one of Time magazine's best fiction novels of the year and included in the all-time 100 greatest novels. The Observer cited it as one of the 100 best novels ever written and a contemporary classic of mesmerising narrative conviction. Keira Knightley, another of the film's stars, found McEwan's descriptive writing helped the transition from novel to film.
Obviously, the writing, we had a wonderful script by Christopher Hampton based on an extraordinary book, and I think we used the novel a lot. And what's wonderful about doing a film from an adaptation is that you can always look back to the novel, and Ian McEwan is fabulously descriptive as far as the characters go, so it was very easy to completely understand what was going on.
Atonement received positive reviews with its strong performances and overall brilliant production. Its adaptation from McEwan's novel was successful and led to the film winning an Academy Award. Few British novelists have matched the seriousness and sustained force of Atonement. It is the work of a unique, imaginative voice demanding our attention and respect. Even though some of his pieces of work have been quite controversial, Ian McEwan is one of the finest writers of his generation. Sir Ahmed Salman Rushdie is an Indian-British novelist and essayist. His first novel was published in 1975. His second, in 1981, won the Booker Prize for Fiction, the James Tate Black Memorial Prize, Art Council Writers Award and the English Speaking Union Award. But it was the publication of his fourth novel in 1988, The Satanic Verses, that people remember him for. It caused immediate controversy in the Islamic world because of what was perceived as a disrespectful portrait of the Prophet Muhammad.
I think that when you get involved in this free speech thing, you discover that a lot of what you're defending is stuff you don't like. And the truth is that it's easy to defend work that you don't mind. It's easy to defend work that you broadly agree with, or that doesn't really upset you, or you're indifferent to it. And in a way, what I learned is the defense of free speech begins when people say things you don't like. That's not. It doesn't end there. It starts there. If you're not willing to defend the right of people to say things that you personally find even abhorrent, then really you don't believe in free speech. You only believe in people's right to agree with you.
This book led to protests from Muslims in several countries, even resulting in Rushdie receiving death threats and a fatwa, a ruling from the supreme leader of Iran to have him killed. Rushdie spent many years in hiding after this, appearing only occasionally in the public.
after months in which I've been trying to hold out a hand of friendship and explain to people that I'm not an enemy of Islam, and in many ways have been for many years an ally of the rights of Muslims in Kashmir or Palestine or here, what's happened is somebody has taken that hand and clasped it, and the somebody who has done so is no less than the supreme religious authority of the Sunni Muslim world. That's the Grand Sheikh of Al-Azhar in Cairo, who is the ultimate authority for 90% of the world's Muslims. And what he has done is to give me his blessing and to say, if I may paraphrase, that the past should be considered, so to speak, a closed book. So now we're in a position, here we are on New Year's Eve, it's a new year, we are being told by the supreme religious authority that this matter is dealt with.
With almost a decade of hiding, Rushdie in the late 90s was able to live a normal life again after the Iranian government lifted the fatwa.
Well, because I think I've been wanting.
In 2007, Rushdie's storytelling was recognised. He was awarded a knighthood for services to literature. Many nations, with the majority being Muslim, protested in response to his knighthood. Mass demonstrations took place in Pakistan and Malaysia, with some protesters calling for his death once again. For Rushdie, though, he was grateful that his work had been acknowledged.
It's very nice, as you say, to be recognised for the right reason, that's to say for work and for writing and for the things that I actually have dedicated my life to. So I'm very proud of that.
Rushdie's controversial book still receives a lot of negative feedback from Muslim communities, but the threats he receives now are more rhetoric than real threats. He has since gone back to his trademark magical realism, where fact and fantasy intertwine, with his 10th novel, The Enchantress of Florence. And according to Rushdie, this is his most researched book.
So I think in the end, I wrote a book I didn't expect to write. You know, I think I expected to write a book about difference, you know, and about all the consequences of bringing that kind of difference into collision. You know. And instead I found myself writing a book about similarity.
Whatever Salman Rushdie writes, it's surely to be a literary event.